All right, we good. Yo. So let's go. I see the green. Nah, it ain't nothing about it. It is the Wi-Fi. So there's something wrong with Johnny's computer too. No, there's something wrong with your network. That's okay. You didn't create the network. All right, y'all, let's go to John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures so any of you think you have eternal. Hey, why are you talking? I said it's over. All right, y'all. Search the scriptures for any of you think you have eternal life, and there they was testified me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you that you have not the love of Alahym in you. I come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Alahym only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There's one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? So all esteem and praise the Abba and Shamahim. Let's get this Ecclesiastes 3 and 1. To every a season and a time, to every purpose on the Shamaim. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up, plant it. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away. A time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, a time of peace. What profit have he that work in that wherein he labor? I've seen the travail which Alahym have given to the sons of men and to be exercised in. He have made every beautiful in his time. He have also set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the works that Alahym makes from the beginning to the end. I know no good in them, but for to rejoice and to do good in his life. Also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor, it the gift of Alahym. I know that whatsoever Alahym do, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken from it. And Alahym do that should fear before him. That which have been is now, and that which is had to be have already been. And Alahym require that which is past. Now, we already referenced, hey, children, get it together. Get it together. It's over with. Sit down and be quiet. Now, we mentioned that part that earlier before we realized it wasn't no volume about travail. Means business or travail. So get Luke chapter 2. Let me see what verse I went. Let's go to Luke chapter 2, man, about verse 44.
But they, supposing him to have been in the company one a day's journey, and they saw him among kinsfolk and acquaintance, and when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. And it came to pass after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. When they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why have you thus dealt with us? Behold, your father and I have sought to sorrow you. And he said unto them, How is it that you sought me? Know you not that I must be about my father's business.
So, and this is what we went to this for, man. He said, what did he say in Ecclesiastes 3? I have seen the travail or the business that Alahym have given to men to be exercised in. Come back to that verse 10 of Ecclesiastes 3 and give me exercise.
That's to be occupied, to be busy with.
Or to be busy with or work. So let's look at something in Timothy, I believe. I want to say in 2 Timothy. It may so, man. No, it's 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 3, I believe. Or was it chapter 4? Yeah, 1 Timothy chapter 4. You can pick it up at verse 1, man. Hey, children. Ain't nobody finna keep talking to y'all. Madeline, get up. Malik, get up. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Get up, Mordecai. Get that out your mouth. 1 Timothy 4 and 1.
Now the Ruach speak expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of
See, that go with what we were talking about last night. Ezekiel 16 and Ezekiel 23 showed you that they went after the doctrines of devils. See, hold on for a minute. I'm going to swing over here to Deuteronomy 32. When you come over here and you look at Deuteronomy chapter 32, what is verse is that I require? Right here in verse 15. But Yeshurun waxed fat and kicked. You are waxing fat. You are grown thick. You are covered. Then he forsook Alahym, made him, lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with strange. With abominations, they provoked him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils and not to Alahym, to gods whom they knew not to know, came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Now, don't it say in Daniel that this man will worship a God who your fathers knew not? See, it tell you in this last time that people go, what are some of the doctrines of devils? Well, tell them what devils is here in the Greek, man. What are some of the teachings of devils?
That's the divine power, deity, divinity, the Ruach, being inferior to Alahym, superior to evil Ruachs are the messengers and ministers of the devil.
Evil Ruachs, messengers and ministers of the devil, and inferior teaching. You know, there's a multitude of doctrines of devils out here in this earth that we don't even have the time or the energy to even go through them. You know what I'm talking about? And a lot of people give heed to anything that's opposite to what Yahuwah directed to do is the doctrine of a devil. What does he tell you in Corinthians? The prince of the power of the air, who the children of disobedience hearken to. That's why we mentioned that last night. Boy, your mind will lie to you and your mind will deceive you. You know what I'm talking about? So you don't want to listen to that, and you don't want to listen to your feelings. You know why we know that? Come on, get this. Hold this Roman 7, man. You just stay where you at. I'm going over here to Roman 7, man. We got to move swift. We done lost an hour. We come over here to Roman chapter 7, man, and pick this up at verse 7. What shall we say then? The law sin, Alahym forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust except the law said you shall not covet. But sin taken occasion by the commandment worked in me all manner of conspicuance, for without the law sin dead. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. And the commandment which to life I found unto death. For sin taken occasion by the commandment deceived me, and by it slew. Wherefore the law Kadash and the commandment Kadash, just and good. Was then that which is good made death unto me? Alahym forbid. But sin that it might appear sin working death in me by that which is good, that sin by commandment might become exceeding sinful. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold unto sin. Now, what is he sitting here telling you? That which is good, was it made death unto you? No. But when you violate it, you die. So that which is supposed to be your benefit will end up being for your detriment. And this is why he's about to go into you that with that which he would do allow not, that's that what he does, and that what he hate, that's what he does. Why? Because your mind deceives you. He also mentioned that sin deceived him, and by that deceit, it killed him. That's what you seen with Eve in the garden. That's what you see going on in the majority of life. Your heart and sin in this world will lie to you, and it will destroy you, and it will kill you, and it'll get you out of the presence of God. That's what's going to happen. You can't go by your feelings. You can't go by the world. You can't go by your mind. What does the book tell you in Isaiah 40? Who has the mind of Yahuwah? Who's been his counselor? Who taught him in the way of understanding? He also told you there's no searching of his understanding. When you had that happen, we can end up getting caught. That's why the book again tells you repeatedly to walk in the Ruach. This is why the master told you to watch and pray. For the Ruach is willing, but the flesh is weak. And what is the flesh weak towards? Its own desires. The things that the flesh don't want what God wants. I think Paul mentioned that in Romans 8, if I'm not mistaken, that the carnal mind is hatred towards the law of Alahym. It can't be subject to it. Anything that the flesh wants is going to be opposite of the law of God. Anything that your mind wants is going to be opposite of the word of Yahuwah. They're never going to be on the same accord. So you have to get rid of your mind and get his mind, or you're not going to be able to tabernacle with him. You're not going to get a booth from on high. You're not going to get the fine linen, clean and white, which is the righteousness of the saints, because you're going to have the wrong mind. Again, we read it last night. What did he say? Deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Your heart, your mind is. That's why he say I'm carnal, sold under sin. This is why Paul come back down here a little bit later, man, in Romans chapter 7. In verse 18, see, he say, for I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwell no good thing. For the well is present with me, but how to perform that which is good, I know not. And this was in my mind just because what's in Ecclesiastes chapter 3? What did he say in verse 12? I know that no good in them, but for man to rejoice and to do good in his life. This man already telling you that in your flesh there dwells no good thing. What is good, that's told. There's nothing pleasant there. Not pleasant to you, but pleasant to Yahuwah. Let's come back to 1 Timothy chapter 4. And that's how people get caught up with seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. And that's how a lot of individuals going to be worshiping the idol God and get caught up with the beast. 1 Timothy 4:1.
Now the Ruach speak expressly that in the latter time some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding the married to abstain from meats which Alahym has created to receive with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth.
See that first one, that forbidding the married, that's a doctrine of devils. And you hear that in America regularly. Dang, that trying to say this one. I don't even know how that happened. Well then. Hold on. Clubhouse ain't working at all. I ain't got no signal. Nevertheless. And you know why? Because see, it's a twofold thing. I've seen some people had a conversation about that on Lil Duval end. And he was talking about legal marriage. See, how you get married in America is not the standard of how you get married. You know what I'm talking about? That's just the standard because everywhere in the world don't do that like this. See, a lot of individuals in this country believe that if you don't want to go to the courthouse, you don't want to be married. But how did people get married for millenniums before there was even a courthouse? Or before there was even a quote-unquote marriage license, which y'all should already know. What is a marriage license? It's a watered-down covenant. You know why it's a watered-down covenant? Because there is no agreement from both parties in a marriage license. You just filling out an application, turning it in, paying them for it, and they give you a license. A covenant is actual lined out terms and conditions. And you know who set the terms and conditions in a marriage covenant, at least in Yahuwah's frame of thought, for that matter? The man did. You know what I'm talking about? He set the terms. The woman agrees to the terms. If she don't want to agree to the terms, then she don't have to marry him. That's how that went. It wasn't no mutual coming up with terms that we're going to agree on. That's not how it went. But see, now you live in America, they telling people not to marry at all. You don't understand how big of a doctrine of a devil that is. You know why that's a negative? Because when you don't marry, you don't have families. And I told you before, if you isolate women by themselves, a society is easily overran because women are not spiritually superior enough to defeat the devil. So who going to protect the children if ain't no men around from the devil? Because you don't have the spiritual aptitude, strength, or ability to defeat Satan. You don't have it. You don't have it. So they know how do we appeal to destroy you by offering you all of these things and telling you you ain't going to be stupid like your grandparents, but you actually are 5 times as stupid because you fell for the games of the devil to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. That's how they run in the game. That's not no knock on women. That's the skill of the devil. The devil know how to play the game. You just don't know how he playing the game, so you get got. Because again, I mention it all the time. What did Paul say? We are not ignorant to what? The wiles of the devil. The man got game he running. He know who to run that game on. You know what I'm talking about? Salute, bro. He know who to run that game on. He know if I can keep the women and the children over here and the men over here, then I can overrun them. Because for the woman to have a strong connection to Yahuwah, she got to have strong connection to a man who served Yahuwah. It doesn't matter if it's her husband. It could be her uncle. It could be her father. It could be her brother. It doesn't matter who it is. She's not coming out plugged into Yahuwah off the top. There has to be a man that's plugged in with him to plug her in. Once he plug her in, then yes, she's plugged in. Because how do we know this? You don't see one single solitary woman in this book who was just plugged in and there was no man involved. Who was involved with Esther to plug her in? Who was involved with Abigail to plug her in? Her father was before she even came, because it says she was a woman of understanding before David even came around. So who plugged her in? I'm gonna tell you that, man, because they were going back and forth arguing about it, talking about the wealth benefits of being married. And I'm like, you could build wealth and not have a wife. You need to be married. You know how many people in America that are married and ain't got no wealth? I even hear the people saying there's so many benefits for men in it. And if you ask men, well, what are the benefits? You don't get no answer. The women will tell you what the benefits are, but these are not anything that men are saying that they benefiting from. The first thing they come up is you live longer. You ain't got nothing to do with that. That's all Yahuwah. That's either way. It wouldn't matter if they said the women live longer when they married. It wouldn't matter. It's still all Yahuwah. They ain't got nothing to do with you. It's got to deal with Yahuwah. I didn't say that because I know I seen Nell have said something like that. Like, are you not peeping the attack on families? They've been doing it though. This ain't something they just started doing. Because again, get 1 Corinthians 11:1 and see why.
Be you followers of me, even as I also of Mashiach. Now praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Mashiach, and the head of every woman the man, and the head of Mashiach Alahym. Every man's frame of prophecy.
Paul. So look, what do you see how he said the order? If you disrupt the order, you can overrun a society. That's whether people in the word or not in the word. If you disrupt the order, you can overthrow a society. It ain't that hard. It ain't that hard at all. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you live in this society, unfortunately. Do you know some of the stories that niggas heard about getting married before they ever thought about getting married that made a lot of men adverse to the thought of it? See, y'all don't hear them stories. Most of the men in here probably tell you don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Or you hear dudes say if they've done it, that they'll never do it again. Now, see, that's unfortunate. But you know why it's unfortunate? It's not necessarily the women per se. It's not necessarily the men per se. It's the society that we live in. The society has set up certain parameters. You know what I'm talking about? And people interact according to those parameters. And then because of those parameters, people end up miserable. And they end up miserable because you're looking for a reality that doesn't exist. So this how that doctrine of the devil of forbidden to marry, that's how it can come in. Because you tell people don't do it. Tell them what forbid mean in the Greek so we can get a clear understanding of that. Not only that, then you also know we've been talking about this. You telling people not to eat flesh. All that comes from the devil. You ain't got to agree with it. You ain't got to like it. It is what it is.
Forbidding is to hinder, to prevent, forbid, to withhold the thing from anyone, to deny or refuse one a thing.
You see how that the hinder? It's a lot of, we'll focus more on the hinder part because a lot of it is being people, you're getting hindered. They're telling you, hey, man, you don't want to do that. I ask you ladies this here, right? This is not just with people in the word, it's people in the, you know, what do you think the number one thing is a man would tell another young man if he was going to get married, don't do it because he's going to lose this? What do you think it would be? What you say? His vision. Anybody else? Because I'm trying to move swift. Any of you gentlemen? I'm trying to move swift. All right, man. That's it. If any man who ever talked to who told you, nah, man, you don't want to do that, you're gonna lose this if you get married. What was the thing that you might have heard the most, if you heard that at all? Now, I haven't had people tell me this directly myself, but I've had conversations and been around people throughout the course of my life who ran it and raved about young nigga don't never do it. He said your balls. He said your resources. You said what else? You know what I done heard a lot of men say the most? That you lose your freedom and your power. Basically, what he just said, you lose your balls. You know what I'm talking about? You get your manhood cut. Now, I don't know what them gentlemen's all the way experiences was, but that's what they would say. This is what dudes use, and then what he said with the resources, this is what people use in this society. I'm not speaking for the whole world. I'm talking about this society and how they can convince men not to do it. They do women in the reverse. Yeah, I know that's what a lot of them say. You know what I'm saying? A lot of dudes feel like they lose their freedom. Yeah, they feel like you're going to lose your freedom. They don't feel like as a man, your life comes to an end that day. That's unfortunate. You know what I'm talking about? That's unfortunate. I mean, but shoot, it's some stronger men that done said it too. They'll be like, man, hell no, it ain't working. But they come at women differently. They tell you, go over here, do your own thing, do this, do that. You don't need a man for this. You can wait to do this. Again, like I told you before a long time ago, it's the same way like they did with the music. Misha said women may try to take over the house. Some women do. You know what I'm talking about? But it's like I told you before with the music. They got a different set of programming for black folks than they do for white folks. Well, they got a different set of programming for men than they do for women for their same objective, which is to bring that doctrine of a devil in. Now, the abstaining from meats, that's a whole nother conversation. Because you got people who in the word who argue all day long about this. All day long about this. They don't realize that what is the devil? He's a whisperer and an accuser. All it's going to do is call. See, with these situations that I'm describing, all like I mentioned to you last night, all it's going to cause is strife and contention. Strife and contention is where the devil flourishes. That's where he flourishes at. Why? Because with strife and contention, you can cause chaos. And that is where he is at his most powerful. So when you live in a society that got a forbidden for marriage and you got a fake gender war going on, that causes chaos, which therefore he can flourish. And that's how most of these podcasts that niggas claim that because I don't listen to all these niggas to know what all these people talking about on their podcast. But clearly it's ministered in the doctrines of devils because it's keeping people separate. And that's what Satan wants. You know what happens when people can come together on one accord, especially if that one accord is with Yahuwah? Let's look and see. Ecclesiastes 4 and 5, man. I think that's what we want, Ecclesiastes 4. And that's going to come back. Who I call for? Renee, Muffin, Michael. Yes, sir. Well, it wasn't that they were confused. They were all on one accord. To keep them from one accord, he gave them a different language so they couldn't work together. Because at that particular point, they was on all accord. I told you verse 6. Ecclesiastes 4 and 6 is fine.
Better a handful.
Hold on. I could distinctly say that I said Renee, Malia, Michael, Maury, Muffin. Now come on.
It's better a handful of
Just wait.
this than both hands travail in vexation of ruin. Then I returned and I saw vanity under the sun. There is one and not a second. They have neither child nor brother, yet no end of all his labor. Neither is his eye satisfied with riches. Neither, for whom do I labor and bereave my soul of good? This also vanity, yea, a sore travail.
Two.
Better than one.
Two.
Better than one.
Because they have what?
A good reward for their labor.
They have a good reward.
Reward for their labor.
For if they fall,
then one will lift up his fellow.
But woe to him.
That is alone when he falls, for he have not enough to help himself.
If two lie together,
then they have heat.
But how can one
be warm?
If one prevail against him?
Two shall withstand him, and the threefold cord is not quickly broken.
See that this is the thing what we're talking about. See, Satan, know this. If I keep you isolated and separated, you can't never be strong. See, we ain't even talking about just what people be talking about, doctrines and all this, that, there, and the third. If the people not one with each other, then that's how he can come through and hinder everything. That's why he does. That's why I mentioned what I mentioned about his programming, how he come at people in this particular society. I can't speak for no other society because we don't live in any other society. You know what I'm talking about? In this particular society, he running the game on the men, he running the game on the women, and it's to keep niggas separate. You keep them separate, then that 1 Corinthians 11:1, it can't be brought to pass. That causes confusion. That means the children. See, what people call generational curses are not generational curses. It is the workings of Satan to keep your children enraptured and ensnared of the will of the devil. Seriously. Like what I mentioned to you last night, you got to teach the young girls to value that everything is to keep you separate from, if you're living in sin, you're separate from God. If you got a carnal mind, you're separate from God. If I can keep the woman separate from man, and she came from man and was made for man, and man was made for God, and I can keep everybody separated, nobody can serve you. That means there's no power of God in the earth. The people can be corrupted. Because see, you worry about you, Satan going after your churn. He already know he got you. He already know he got you. If I already got you, I ain't got to focus on you. Why do you think when you look at least in this society, all manner of entertainment and all the wickedness in entertainment, who is it geared towards? The children. You know what I'm talking about? And you know what? I just seen a dude share this here, man. He say, fathers, you should never tell your daughter no. You know, that's the most horrible thing that you could ever say. And you seen how many, if you would have seen how many women say, my father would never tell me no. And that's your problem. Because God gonna tell you no. He gonna tell you no. And he ain't gonna have no thoughts about it. What does that end up happening? That lends up to a generation of people who are entitled. That's what that happens to. And I mention that not because of the natural thing, but because when we come to Yahuwah, now what do we feel like? We're entitled to receive. That's why people think that the blessings of God is financial. You know what I'm talking about? That's why people think the blessings of God is whatever it is that they want, because you are entitled. Give me 1 Corinthians chapter, what that is, 5, man? Or is it 6? It's 6. Give me 6 and 10 real quick, like, man. And we come back to 1 Timothy 4.
Say, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the Malchus of Alahym. And such are some of you, but you are washed, but you are sanctified, but you are justified in the name of the Lord Yahushua and by the work of our Alahym. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Meat for the belly and belly for meat, but Alahym have destroyed both in and them. Now the body not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Alahym have both raised up the Lord, and will also raise up by his own power. Know you not that your bodies are the members of Mashiach? Shall then take the members of Mashiach and make the members of a harlot?
God forbid.
What know you not that which is joined to a harlot is one body? But you say peace shall be one flesh.
Now pause. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But he that is joined unto the Lord is one rule.
Now, didn't we just see that he said that a 3/4 cord can't be broken? Now, come here, children. Muffin, where you at? Come here. Come on. Now, what did you ask yesterday, Lizzie? Huh? Come on, you can talk louder than that. You talk louder than that. Why you shy? Ain't nobody looking at you. They can't even see you. What you say, Lindsay? How they make the boost? How they make the boost, Michael? How they make the boost, Michael? How they make the boost, Muscle? So what? Yes, Lizzie. Using type of branches. How they make the boost, Malia? You stop? Isaiah, you know how they make the boost, son? Well, let's go over here to Leviticus 23. And let's read verse 39.
Also, on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto Yahuwah 7 days. On the first day, a Shabbat, and on the 8th day, a Shabbat. You shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees.
Say boughs. No, you gotta say it like you mean it. Of what type of trees? Goodly trees. Say goodly trees. You want to know what a bow is? Do you? It doesn't sound like it. I don't know if I believe you. Well, say this with me. Parade. Do you know what that means? Do any of you grown folks in here know what parade means? I told you numerous times. It means fruit, produce. So what he's asking you to bring is the produce from a goodly tree. Would you like to hear what goodly is? Hadar. Say it with me. Hadar. Do you know what it means? It means honor, splendor, glory, majesty. It means splendor, majesty, great. I just told you. It's great. So listen, he told you on that first day that you need to bring the produce of an honorable tree. Let's go to Matthew 12, I should say. Is it Matthew 12 by design? We ain't talked about this aspect of these trees in a long time. Ruthie. Why you acting like that, Ruthie? Ain't nothing wrong with you. No, Matthew 12 might be Matthew 11. I don't know. I don't even think that's it. Now, of course, we all know about the parable of the sword. That's not what we're focusing on. What I want is escaping my mind. This man tell you that what? A good tree can't bring forth what? And a corrupt tree can't bring forth what? Now, this man also told you that a tree be known by its what? Now, what are those fruits? Oh, I'm about to tell you how you bring that fruit. So it's joy, love, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, meekness. He said you need to bring the fruit from a goodly tree. Romans chapter 13, man, verse 14. This is how I show you how you be able to bring that fruit from a goodly tree. Because who is that goodly tree? Mashiach is that goodly tree. I don't have the time this evening to go through Ezekiel 31 and all those spots to show you how you rest up under his shadow. But he also told you in John 15 that he is the true vine. And his apostles were the branches, and that he would purge them that they might bring forth fruit. So when you come to build this tabernacle, you have to bring forth fruit from a goodly tree or a honorable, majestic, splendor tree. Because that's what parade is. Parade is the literal word for fruit or produce. So when you come to make this booth, you have to bring forth the evidence of the tree that is needed to build this particular structure. Continue.
Say, but put you on the Lord, Yahushua.
Put you on who?
The Lord, Yahushua HaMashiach.
And do what?
Make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust.
So that's the first thing. If you want to do, you're going to have to put off the flesh and you're going to have to put on Mashiach. And that's how you'll be able to bring forth the fruit from that goodly tree. Let's look at the next thing it said, children. Now it says you need to bring branches of a palm tree. Do you know what a palm tree is? Westbrook. This is a date palm. Kind of like that tree that's in the front yard, mother. That's a date tree, which would be considered to be a date palm tree. So what? No. A date tree can be called a palm tree. I'm mentioning that so you can have a visual idea of what I'm referring to. We have a date palm tree in our front yard. Palms are branches, leaves off a particular type of tree. But all palm trees don't produce dates. But all date trees have palms. Now, why is this important about the dates? It's something in what's the name, man? I jumped in my brain. I can't remember what it's. This is Exodus. There it is. Come over here to Exodus 15. Exodus 15 and 27. Listen to it.
And they came to Alahym, where 12 wells of water and 310 palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters.
Tell them what them doggone the name of that city means, man. Elam. These are the trees that you got to use to make a booth. You don't get a tent per se.
That means palms.
So it's a place of palms. And then you see how many palm trees were there, sir? 70. Notice that it had 12 wells of water. Now, what do you think this referred to? Now, you can think about them 70 elders because they, they producing fruit. You got a well for each tribe so you can have everlasting life. This is where they encamped at, giving you a visual of where they dwelt at into the Garden of Eden, if you would, or New Jerusalem. The date palms are significant of what? Or the production of fruit. Get John 15 and 1 real quick, man, while I read these last bit of trees for these children. And you know what the last one is? He say boughs of thick trees. Now, the boughs are different here. It's not going to be parade. When you got boughs for the thick trees, you have a knob, and that is a branch. Do you know about the branch? You just raising your hand. Do you know about the branch? Do you know about the branch? Get them Jeremiah 23 and 5, man, and tell them about the branch. And after that, Isaiah 11 and 1, and tell them about the branch. Come on, Joseph. Relax.
And behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch.
A righteous who?
A righteous branch.
Mm-hmm. Tell him what branch means.
A sprout, a growth, a branch.
A branch, an outgrowth. Continue.
And the malice shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, Yahuwah shall be saved, and Yeshua shall dwell safely. And this is name whereby he shall be called.
Yahuwah are what?
Are righteous.
Yahuwah is a dot. Now, Isaiah 11 and 1.
And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots.
A who?
A branch shall grow.
Tell him what branch is right there, man. I ain't gonna go too long, man.
That's a sprout.
Pause. Now that's different. Now you get a different word. A net sir. A the what? Now, why is that important? Any of you gentlemen remember why that's important? Because you had a different word in Jeremiah 23 than what you got in Isaiah 11. Why is this important about here be called a net sir? Just go. But then you got a branch on a level that you don't understand yet because you don't understand about human reproduction in its entirety at this point in time in your life. I would probably put money on. Do you understand anything about human reproduction?
No, I do not.
I know.
I do not.
Huh? You don't know anything about human reproduction? Do you even know what reproduction means?
No, I don't.
Well, that's how all us got here. Matthew chapter 2 and verse 19. Reproduction means to reproduce. That's what the fruit is. The fruit is the produce of the seed of the fruit. You are the produce of the seed of your father. Instead of putting the seed in the ground, they put the seed in your mother's womb, and she carried you for 9 months. And then she pushed you out, and now you the fruit of your father's seed. How many what? Give or take?
No, but some people born different days.
What are you talking about? Everybody's born on a different day.
Like
Everybody born at a different time.
I don't get it.
Probably because you're only 8. It's okay. I mean, everybody's going to share a birthday with somebody. You know how many people are in the earth?
No, I don't.
7 billion.
Or days. Yeah, some people are dead and some people are alive.
And somebody died and somebody was born at this very moment that we talk.
You said how many people are in the earth?
7 billion people are on the earth allegedly.
People know, but they never like a lot of people die, so you have
And a lot of people are being born. Okay, so they keep counting. And they just keep on counting. That's all. Oh, I can't tell you that. But the earth will never run out of people. It won't happen because Yahuwah said it ain't gonna happen. Only the righteous will be here when he get here. If you're wicked, you die. And then you're gonna burn. But if you're righteous, you're gonna dwell in his kingdom and you're gonna live forever. The kingdom will be on the earth. He made the earth to be inhabited. To live. You inhabit this house. Go ahead, sir.
He said, but when Herod was dead, behold, the Alahym of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, arise, take the young child and his mother, and go to the land of Yasharal, for they are dead who sought the young child's life. Mm-hmm. He arose and took the young child and his mother, and came to the land of Yasharal. But when he heard that Archelaus did reign in Jehudah, in the room of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there, notwithstanding. Being warned of Alahym in a dream, he turned aside into the parts of Galilee. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that might be fulfilled.
Tell him what Nazareth means.
That's the guarded one.
The guarded one. Place of protection. Go ahead. Don't sit down. Son.
That it might be filled which is spoken by the prophets, he shall be called Nazarene.
Tell him what Nazarene means.
That is one separated.
Now, when you hear that's one separated, what's the first thing come to your mind? You hear Nazarene, one who separated, and it also means the city that he came up in means one that is guarded. You just heard Netzer was an offshoot, right? Produce, right? So when you hear a Nazarene, which is one who is what?
Separated.
What come to your mind? No. Little Muffin, what come to your mind? Yes, you the only Little Muffin in here that's grown. No, ma'am. Doris? She don't know. Marvin? Yes, sir. You hear that Nazarene mean one that is separated. What's the first thing should come to your mind? A Nazarite. You understand when they were keeping tabernacles in the wilderness, that they were making temporary booths before the tabernacle of witness? Do y'all know what the tabernacle of witness is? Do you know what tabernacle means? What does tabernacle mean? Leah, Muffin, Lizzie, Christian. No. What does the word tabernacle mean? No. Doesn't mean a feast day. Feast of Tabernacles is a feast day, but the word tabernacle means something by itself. Say it with me. Say it with me, children. Sukkot. And that means booth. Booth or house. So tabernacle means house. What are you talking about? You can't keep it still. You can't keep this house still, baby. If a hurricane came around here strong enough, this house going with it. Some things ain't for you to understand, baby. It's okay. Same with a house. It don't matter. If it's strong enough wind, baby, the house going with it. It can be nailed down, but if it's a strong enough wind, that booth going. It's going. Ain't nothing you can do to stop it, baby. It's going. Because these houses are stronger than the booth. And the right wind, the house going with it. Tornadoes and all. You know who in the tornado? You know who in the hurricane? The Lord. Yes, Leah. No. Don't give me an antidote. You got to answer the question. If you're going on a ramble, you got to save that for another time. I mean, you can look crazy as you wish. Huh? A blizzard is a snowstorm. What, a tornado? Were you scared? You were scared. You got under the desk. You don't want to. So, go back to John 15:1. We probably go about another 15 minutes, man. Make it an hour flat. I'm at 47 minutes, and we'll call it a wrap from there because we lost an hour. So I'm not going to try to sit here and try to make up that hour because it'll be 10:30 at that point.
I'm the true vine, and my Abba is the husbandman. Every branch in me that bear not fruit, he take away. And every that bear fruit, he purge it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you.
Do what?
Abide in me.
You see, now you look at this here, right? When you're abiding in that booth, then Yahuwah should have been abiding in that booth with you. To answer y'all question also, the tabernacle of witness is what the temple of Yahuwah was before the temple of Yahuwah was built. So they took a temporary shelter and carried it. That's what had the Ark of the Covenant in it, which had the 2 tables of stone that Moses had when he went up on the mount. And then on top of the Ark of the Covenant is the mercy seat. And that's the throne of Yahuwah. That's where Yahuwah sit. He wasn't literally sitting there. It was representative of where he sat. They made booths that all face the tabernacle of witness to fulfill a verse that we're going to read in a minute. Go ahead. I got you. Hold on.
Okay, abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine.
See how you can't bring the produce of the goodly tree unless you abide in the goodly tree. See, that's where we get confused at. You think that you could bring forth the fruit and not be in the tree. You have to be in the tree to bring forth the fruit. Go ahead.
And no more can you except you abide in me. I am the vine, you the branches. He that abide in me, and I in him, the same bring forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing.
Now read John 14:1 so you can see what that first tabernacle. Have any of y'all, grown people anyway, any of y'all ever seen pictures of all the booths in front of the tabernacle of witness with like the flaming fire by night shooting up in the middle? That's what tabernacles was like. Everybody had their booth. It all surrounded and faced what would be considered to be the throne of Alahym. No, not no stone. No, they ain't make no stone house. No, some people, I don't think so. Some people, there's some over in the land, but ain't nobody really doing that. John 14:1.
Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in Alahym, believe also in me. And my Abba's house is many mansions. If not, I would have told you.
Go tell them what mansion means. I mentioned that because so you could get a visual thought in your brain to even be able to understand what that meant. That's what that tabernacles was representing when you seen all them trees. Booths.
That's Monet, that's a staying in the body, dwelling in the whole.
Notice they just put mansions there so you know people in modern times, you're going to think of this opulent place to live. You understand? So when you look at that, right, read that definition again for matches.
It's a staying, abiding,
A dwelling place where you live. He said, in my Father's house, there are many places to live. So when you look at that, it's metaphorical, referring to those who receive the Ruach HaKodesh. It's many people dwelling in God. If it wasn't so, he would have told you. Meaning, if it wasn't a Ruach to be given to be received, he wouldn't have even told you that. What you had to say, Brother Mama? Hold on, Liv.
Oh, when Peter, I was trying to make sure I referenced it. I think it was First Peter where he made the mention where he was going to take off he was going to leave out his tabernacle. That's why
He talking about his fleshly body,
right,
that he was finna die.
yes, in the sense of Yahuwah's life.
No, he was talking about literally, I'm finna die. I'm taking this body off or this house off.
I thought I was thinking this was.
No. He was being direct. You talking about 2 Peter chapter 1. Where is that at? Let me get that real quick so y'all know what he talking about. So right here in 2 Peter chapter 1, in verse 14, verse 13, I should say, I'll make it 12. Wherefore I will not be negligent to put you always in remembrance of these things, though you know and be established in the present truth. Yeah, I think it meet as long as I'm in this tabernacle to stir you up by putting in remembrance, knowing that shortly I must put off my tabernacle, even as the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach have showed me. So what he let you know, he referring to his earthly body, he let them know that he was getting ready to die. So he was giving them some pardon information to hold on to before his decease. Die. Let's finish this 1 Timothy 4:1. Hold on. Let me make sure I got all that for the children. So, children, this is what thick trees is. When you look at thick, that's why I can't call y'all over here, because we were talking about that 3/4 cord, and we were talking about how you have one ruach in the master, and how you one flesh with your wife, and how being one. Yes, Liz. No. The word for thick is a both. It is an interwoven foliage, intertwined. If you just wait, you can. The problem is you talk too swiftly. Sometimes you got to close your mouth and open your ears, and then you can understand. You don't even give a chance for information to come so you can understand. Sometimes you got to have patience and wait. Interwoven. Do you know what interwoven means, children? See this here? Do your hands like this. You know what you've just done? You've interwoven your fingers. What does this mean if they're interwoven? By looking at your fingers. They're together. So you take thick trees, or you take the foliage off the trees, and you do this with them. You weaving them, absolutely. Do you weave? Do you bob and weave? Do you do a 3-man weave? What? No, not that kind of weave. Weaving meaning that you take something and you sew them together and they're intertwined and they become one. So let's get that John 14:21.
He that hath my commandments and keep them, he it is that love me, and he that loves me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him and will manifest myself to him. You say unto him, now this for our Lord, how is it that you will manifest yourself unto us and not unto the world? Yahushua answered and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my word.
Go ahead.
And my Abba will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him.
See how he said he'll come and do what?
Make our abode with him.
He just told you he'll tabernacle with you. Go ahead.
He that loves me not, keep not my sayings, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Abba's which sent me. These things I have spoken unto you, being present with you. The Comforter, the Ruach HaKodesh, whom the Alahym will send in my name, he shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. Shalom, I leave with you.
That's good. You notice how he said that they'll be one. You'll be one. You'll be interwoven. Why is this important? Do you remember do y'all know what we read every time somebody get immersed in Job? 41. Or as what? Let's look at that real quick. Like Job 41. Job 41 and verse 15.
Scales prized set up together, a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another, they stick together that they cannot be sundered. But if
They do what?
They stick together that they cannot be sundered.
Tell them what stick together here, man.
That's makad, that's capture, to take, to seize, to be holding, to stick together.
Now, why is this important? Those booths say they take thick trees that are interwoven. So you have interwoven branches, fruit from a goodly tree, and what was the other one? I don't forget. And then the date palm tree. You know what I'm talking about? You have the covering from the palm tree, the fruits from an honorable tree, and then the leafage or the intertwining of a thick tree. So you have the oneness of God, the fruit of God, and the covering of God in this booth. If you dwell in him, this is what you're going to get when you make this booth. How do you make this booth? You make it with his word. The last thing you got is the willows of the brooks. When you look at a willow, it is a rod, that is a poplar, that is a willow, that is something that is characterized by dark wood. When you're dealing with the brook, you're dealing with Nicole, and that's, of course, something, a palm tree. It's really a dubious word. You know what I'm saying? Something that could be by a river. You know why that's important? Because it gives you the thought process of the trees that are where? In the Garden of Eden. Yes. Means something hard to be able to be known. Abstract. Abstract mean can't really tell, don't really know. And that's why I advise you to, when you go use the bathroom, take a dictionary with you and read it. That's what I did when I was a child. I'm not even being funny. Say what? I'm not talking about. I'm saying that take the dictionary in your own time and read it. And that's how you learn new words. Yes. Oh, summer break was a long time ago. I know. Well, what Kalafa mean then? Let's look at Nehemiah 8, y'all. I'm over here in verse 13. I got you. The other aspect of this is, of course, they were keeping tabernacles again. I think we read it a little bit last night. It said, on the second day, were gathered together the chief of the fathers of all the people, the priests and the Levites under Ezra the scribe, even to understand the words of the law. And they found written in the law which Yahuwah had commanded by Moses, that the sons of Yasharal should dwell in booths in the feast of the 7th month. And they should publish and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, go forth unto the mount and fetch olive branches and pine branches and myrtle branches and palm branches and branches of thick trees to make booths, as it is written. Now, do you know what a myrtle tree is, children? The word is hadass. I don't know. Could you show them a picture of a myrtle tree, sir? A myrtle tree. Then you have pine branches. Pine here is shamin. That's the word for oil. So now you need to bring some anointing oil, if you would. Yes, Leah. These are myrtle trees. I saw one of those before. And palm branches, and of course the thick trees or interwoven foliage. It's the same thing. See, we don't have to go outside and sleep in tents. You know what I'm talking about? Because he never told you to make a tent. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. We done did it before. You know what I'm saying? The last couple of times we tried to do it, a hurricane came. This year we ain't got no hurricane. Oh, because the power came on. I understand. Come over here to 1 Timothy 4, man. We can wrap this up, man. Y'all willing? We pick this up tomorrow. You just can't talk randomly and indiscriminately. 1 Timothy 4, man. Read verse 3 one more time.
Say, forbidding the married to abstain from meats which Alahym hath created to receive a thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth.
See, if you know the faithfulness of God, then you would know that that's nonsense. Now, of course, I went into that just to show the aspect of the oneness or the card that Yahuwah desire versus what this society have people doing as far as with forbidding the marriage. You know what I'm talking about? Because you hear people on the internet and on TV talking about it all the time. You know what I'm talking about? Truth be told, it might not seem like that because mostly everybody in here is married. But when you go out here in the world, the vast majority of people are not married. And they don't have a desire to be. And that's male or female. You know what I'm talking about? And then you don't even realize those who don't have a desire to be that you're really falling right into Satan's hands. The reason why I say that is because you're producing children and you're not married. You know what I'm talking about? So when you're producing children and you're not married, the children are already at a deficit. I told you, where there is no man, there is no family. The children's already at a deficit. Satan could overrun women like nobody's business. A woman is not a threat nowhere on the earth to anyone at any time. A woman's only a threat to a beta male sent mangina, and that's it. Men with power and strength don't see women as a threat. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm just telling you that's the reality of life. You know what I'm talking about? Satan don't fear women or weak men. For what? You think Satan was scared of Ahab? He wasn't. You know what I'm talking about? You think he was scared of Jezebel? Jezebel was fulfilling all his whims. Didn't matter. They were scared of the Lord, though. They ain't want no smoke with Paul, though. Shoot, they ain't want no smoke with David, though. Yeah, man, unclean. Look at, man, I'm trying to tell you, man. That's just reality of life. You ain't got to like it, but you'll respect it in due time. Go ahead, man.
Say, for every creature of Alahym good, and nothing to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving. For to sanctify by the word of Alahym and prayer.
Now, see, that's all too, right? You know why I mentioned that? Because that means the men have to be stronger. And you know we don't need no excuse. Isaiah 26:3.
You will keep a perfect shalom, whose mind stayed on you because he trusts in you.
For trusting Yahuwah.
Trusting Yahuwah forever, for in Yahuwah is everlasting strength.
I think it's in Job 17:9. It said, he that got clean hands get stronger and stronger. You know what I'm talking about? What did he tell Peter when you converted? Do what? You know what I'm talking about? So they don't want men to be that strong. This is why the text warns men about dealing with certain type of women, because they'll snatch your strength. That's why he say, I find more bitter than death the woman, because her hearts are like snares and nets, and her hands are like bands. Because she wouldn't try to ensnare you into entrap you to doing the things that you ought not. If you a sinner, because you're going to get caught up with her. She's going to sap all your power. That's what you're supposed to see when you seen Samson dealing with Delilah. You're dealing with the wrong woman, she'll take all your strength. With no regard and no care. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. That's why we talked about it for a good little minute. That's why King Lemuel mama, what she told her not to do. Don't give your strength to women. So get what that means. Don't give your strength to that harlot. And I ain't talking about no woman you can see neither. I'm talking about that mother of harlots. The great abominations in the earth. You know what I'm talking about? Because that harlot hands is like bands and her heart like snares and nets too. We didn't talk about that before. It's been a long time. You don't remember that, do you? Oh, no, we use Ecclesiastes 7 to show you how that was dealing with Jezebel and how that was dealing with Babylon, and not just a natural woman. Because he said those that please God will escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. You know what I'm talking about? See, that ain't just a natural woman. That's Babylon. Is she not a whore? Whose hearts is like bands and hands, her hearts like snares and nets? What is she trying to get you caught up in? And that's why I mentioned that what we're dealing with over here in America, what they trying to get you caught up in. You know what I'm talking about? They're trying to get you caught up in things that's going to have you outside the will of God. That's why we stopped in Paul, because we talked about the marriage supper briefly last night to see how Israel got in trouble in Ezekiel, right? So if they're forbidding to marry, they're trying to forbid you to marry your husband, which is Yahuwah. You know what I'm talking about? And when we say Forbidding, what is the definition? It was to hinder. What did Yahushua say in Matthew 23? They're not trying to enter into the kingdom of Alahym, and they're trying to hinder others from getting in. You know what I'm talking about? So when you live in a society that is running a hustle on men and women in different angles to stop you from getting married, it is for the purpose of destroying the entire structure, because it's the children who gonna suffer. That's who's gonna suffer. That's who's gonna suffer. And then ultimately the adults gonna suffer because you're gonna go to hell. Because if you're not marrying, guess what that means? You still got what? Desires. And you think people in this society are just foregoing those desires? They're not. They're still indulging. The place stays defiled. Like I told you last night, if your mother was a teen parent, the likelihood of you being a teen parent is higher than a young lady whose mama wasn't. You know what I'm talking about? That doesn't make your mother this. That doesn't make your mother that. It just means it's the reality of life. If your daddy was running in the streets, you know what the likelihood of his son doing it? Higher than somebody who daddy probably who wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't sit back here and just act like these things don't matter. I told you, man, do you know how many people that I went to school with who are grandparents and they're grandparents because they had their first child while we were still in high school? And a lot of them became grandparents before we turned 40 because they were parents before they turned 18. And my homeboy was a teen parent, had a daughter, and I guess you know what he is now. A grandfather, because she was a teen parent also. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, man, that's how that goes, man. Do you know the likelihood if the majority of people in your family married, do you know the likelihood of you being married is going to be higher because that is your life experience, because that's what you see? That's what you see. That's what you're going to. If everybody in your family married, guess what you're going to end up doing? You don't know nothing else. What else have you seen? If you see your daddy with a different woman every day, guess what you probably end up going to be in life? If you see your mama bring a different man in the house every day, guess what you probably going to end up doing? You're going to end up doing the same thing or the direct opposite, because you're going to be like, I don't want to be nothing like that. See, we don't want to deal with that. It's not necessarily that it's curses or anything. It's just passed down behavior. You know what I'm talking about? What did the book tell you not to hang out? What type of man you shouldn't hang with? An angry man. And why did he say you shouldn't hang with an angry man? Lest you be ensnared with him. Because guess what? If your daddy a drunk, guess what you might be? You might be a drunk. You know what I'm talking about? We don't like to look at it, like I said, man, the book tell you that in Ezekiel, man, as is the mother, so is the daughter. And like we talked about last night, as the father's done, the son do likewise, because you're going to model yourself after your parents. So if you want your sons to be a particular type of man, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what type of man are you? If you want your daughters to be a particular type of woman, then you would need to be that kind of woman for her to be that. I had a friend of mine, man, she told me she wanted a marriage like her parents. I said, well, the way to get that, are you a woman like your mama? She said, no. I said, then you can't expect a man like your daddy if you're not a woman like your mama. Her parents been married almost 35 years. She said, I want what they got, but you not the woman your mama is. You rebelled against what they taught you. You rebelled against what they showed you. You can't expect to get that kind of man when you're not that kind of woman. You know what I'm saying? So if you want your daughter to be a particular type of woman, you got to be that kind of woman for her to model herself after. Because who you are is 9 times that. Because guess what? If you got a daughter, who's she going to spend the most of her time with in her formative years? You. So who attributes and traits and attitudes and all these things, who is she going to model herself after? You. So if you want her to be a certain kind of woman, then that's the challenge to make you uncomfortable for you to be that kind of woman that you want her to be. You know what I'm saying? If you want your son to be industrious, you can't be at the house talking about, you know what I'm talking about? I'm at Do Dirty House playing man. You would have to be an industrious man too. If you want your son to complete things, then guess what that means? You'd have to finish what you start too, even if you don't want to. You know what I'm talking about? You know what that tells him? To have grit to push through, even if it's something you don't like, son, you started it, you need to finish it. You don't leave nothing undone. You finish it, you move on to the next thing. You just don't put it down and say, I don't want to play with this toy anymore. You know what that happens? That leaves a man who never completes anything in life. It's too hard for me. I don't want to do this. I'm doing something else. I don't want to do this. I'm doing something else. You'll never know if you'll be successful because you don't stick it out long enough. You know what I'm saying? That success could have been right around the corner. Might have took 10 years. That's how long Kevin Hart said it took him, didn't it? About a decade? I'm just mentioning here because I said 10 years, and that's the first thing that came to mind. She said her friend is 39 and has a 10-year-old grandchild. Good Lord. Wowzers. I don't even want to know how old she was when she had the daughter. Or the son, whatever it is. That's young right there, man. That means you became a grandparent at 29. Which means you had to have the child at about 13 and 15 years old. You know what I'm saying? They had to. Which means your child had to get pregnant at the same age. She said she was 13. She was 13. See, that's what that. Now, what is a 13-year-old girl gonna teach her child on not to become a teen? Because she ain't got nothing to teach her. She ain't got nothing to tell her. And you know what? Is that her fault? It's everybody's fault. It's the little girl's fault. It's the big rusty nigga who got her pregnant. It's his parents' fault. It's her parents' fault. Everybody got blamed to share in this situation. That's another thing we don't like to do too. We just like to put the blame. It's this. Nah, everybody got a role to play. Everybody got a role to play. We ain't never get better. I've been told you, man, these generations been failed us. Most of y'all were too young to be out here in the streets doing what y'all were doing. That's your parents' fault. If you was out here smoking, drinking, this, that, and the third, that's your parents' fault. If you were dropping your drawers and pulling out your wee-wee, that's on your parents. Because you shouldn't even have that type of freedom to even to feel comfortable enough to move around and do that. See, it's not even the issue that you was out to do it. You felt comfortable enough to do it. That means you didn't fear no consequences in doing it. That's on our people. We got to take that one on the chin on that one. You know what I'm saying? Because you got some children who they ain't feel comfortable enough to go out there and do that. And you know what a lot of niggas looked at him here? This lame nigga right here. Nigga like, nah, nigga, my mama gonna knock me out. Well, my daddy gonna kill me. They looked at him like, oh, no, absolutely not. Well, I get caught around here with some liquor in my hand, boy. It's over for me. Sex. Boy, I come home with a baby, it's a wrap. Some of you niggas were grown enough to have sex in your people's house with no regard. Look at you. Yeah. Nigga, right there in the bed. Well, I knew niggas had sex in their parents' bed. I'm like, damn, you niggas disrespectful. I ain't saying everybody did it. I just know people who done it. Some of y'all was like this here. Your people told you, don't let nobody in my house when I ain't home, and you had niggas at the house. Don't mean you were doing nothing inappropriate, but you bucked them. You know what I'm talking about? They told you don't go outside. You was out the door. That mean you didn't fear the consequence. That don't mean your people wouldn't go exercise no consequence, but you ain't respected. You had every child who respect the consequences of their parents, boy, niggas called them lame and this, that, and the third. I guarantee you this here, I bet you most of them are more successful in life than the people who didn't have respect for their parents' authority. You know what I'm talking about? Because they learn how to discipline themselves and be like this here and to follow orders and instructions. Yes. So what? What question is that? Yes, her question has been answered. Come on, finish this here, man, so we can send them on their way. It's 9:45. Yeah, Timothy. Yeah, finish Timothy. Yeah. I say we say all this stuff, man. We look at, man. We just can't act like because I done told you this before, and I would advise y'all to do this here, man. I would advise y'all to not be y'all would be remiss to not share with your children some of the bad choices you made in your youth. It's no need to just act like, oh, we was in the word and this, that, then the third. You need to let them know you was a real person who made bad decisions. And that just because I'm your mama or your daddy does not mean that I'm not a human being and there wasn't a time in my life where I didn't make the best decisions and this was the consequence from those decisions. And I'm telling you this, son. I'm telling you this, baby, so you don't go out here and do the same thing. If you got wisdom to give it, what you keeping it to yourself for? So you don't look bad in their eyesight? Come on, man. You can't do that. You can't do what you doing that. You're going to put them behind the 8 ball to maintain the image. Them niggas don't give a damn. If you did your job, they already love you. So unless you told them you was a homosexual prostitute, I don't think it's much you could tell them that they're going to be like, well, I don't like you no more, mama. Daddy, you were doing what? Yeah, I don't think it's much you're going to be able to tell them. That they're going to look at you like, I don't love my mama no more. You need to tell them I'm a real person. Just like, hey, man, you lose your cool with them, you ought to apologize to them. You know what I'm saying? You do them wrong, they human beings too. I done told you, don't do that nigga stuff and you just walk off like I ain't did nothing to that nigga. You want some spaghetti? Hell no, I don't want no spaghetti, nigga. No, don't do them like that. They'll be more well-adjusted mentally. At least they can know that the person who over them can look at them and tell them my bad. I tell them all the time, man, we go to school, I say, hey, man, I've been up all night. If I be short with you, don't pay me no mind, I'm tired. And she said, you just tired. I said, you know what? You right. I'm smoking some reefer. When I drop you off, I'm going to sleep. I ain't tell about the reefer. I mean, I had to take her to school every morning, man. That was a long drive. I nigga went to school in Atlantic Beach and we lived in Arlington. And I've been up all night. I'm tired. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm high. You try selling crack till 6 in the morning, see how tired you is. Go ahead, man.
If you put the brethren in remembrance of these things, you shall be a good minister of Yahushua HaMashiach, nourishing in the words of faith and of good doctrine, whereunto you have attained.
Where you read it? Man, where you read it? Okay, go ahead.
But refuse profane and old wise fables, exercise yourself unto godliness.
For bodily exercise.
Profit little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having promised of the life that now is and of that which is to come. You
see how that go back to what we've seen in Ecclesiastes 3? He said that which now is and which is to come. And that what he said in Ecclesiastes 3? That which has been is now, and that which is to have already been. And Alahym required that which is past. And of course, we were looking at it. He's seen the labor that the sons of Alahym or the sons of Adam have been exercised in. And he wants that labor for you to exercise yourself in to be godliness. And that's what that meant, the labor to exercise yourself in and making that boot. But hallelujah for y'all. We're going to stop right here, man. I appreciate y'all time and bearing through the technical difficulties that went down. Y'all willing, man, we'll be back tomorrow at 8:30 because it's the Sabbath. 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon start time. Let that be known. And y'all willing, we'll be back then. So I bless y'all the house of Alahym in the name of Yahushua. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. And you who are willing till that time. All right, y'all children, go ahead so y'all can eat.